Hey guys, Martin here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, and so today we are going to be taking a look at a special custom crossover campaign brought to us from our boy Prof, one of the other big Heroes fans in the community, another fellow propagator of the Heroes agenda. We obviously always get very excited around this time of year for the hero stuff, and of course this year a gaping hole has been left in our hearts with the discontinuation of the Heroes celebration. And obviously, you know, the only thing we really know is that we're still supposed to be getting Heroes EZAs, but of course as of right now we still have absolutely no idea when those will be. I can only assume that they're still going to be dropping them in November at some point, because that's when the Heroes celebration used to be, and they didn't come out any earlier in the year at all. But obviously at this point anyone's guess is as good as mine. In the previous years, last year the Heroes celebration was a little bit earlier than usual, around about the 12th, but around that time for this year we're expecting the Part 2 LR to come out in this upcoming week, which obviously we got the hint earlier today appears to be a Goma. But the previous years the Heroes celebration was around the 22nd, so it's very possible that the week after the Part 2 LR comes out we could end up getting the Heroes EZAs, but we're probably not necessarily getting anything new alongside it. So Prof made a custom Heroes celebration last year that I made a video going over as well, I believe, and we are going to go ahead and do the same for this year. Now obviously this is given the current climate, and as I've said with the calendar as far as we're aware of it, very, very unlikely that something like this will happen, especially because Prof has put a lot of time and effort into it, and we know that the Heroes stuff has unfortunately very often ended up being underwhelming, especially when it comes to what they did with the events and, like, you know, bringing out a red zone and then just kind of leaving it. And yeah, this has got a lot of good stuff put into it. So we're going to go through it here. He's made custom kits for all of the EZAs. So obviously we're going to go through those. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on each one, because obviously this could end up being an incredibly long video, but it's definitely a celebration that I would love to see actually come to the game. So we're just going to go ahead and go through it all here now. So we have the crossover celebration, new events, special events. We've got the EZAs, new red zone stages, Supreme Magnificent Battle. We've also got up the launch will show up in the Turtle School training every day, so a little bonus. All the kind of stuff you'd expect to see in a real campaign. So it's like little details like that I really like. So we have the crossover login bonus and special missions. This is obviously just like a standard thing that happens in like every celebration, but therefore obviously should be included. And then we do have a new Heroes Dokkan Festival banner. Now, again, not something that we know these days is going to be happening anymore, but would be pretty cool. So we've got a Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and Demon God Gravy, who's a character that a lot of people potentially wouldn't even necessarily recognize, one of Demigra and also at one point Mechikabura minions, one of the other demon gods. Now the interesting thing about this, I guess, like, there's a lot of characters to come up with. I don't know how they would go about doing the banner for this, because obviously there's 3 new characters. So obviously Heroes is normally like a banner with like 7 units on it, although last year I guess it was only 5. I guess it would be for the players in terms of being able to get the units. Imagine a Heroes banner that's like guaranteed featured and there's only 3 featured SSRs would obviously be pretty good. So the big headliner is of course the Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, who does actually transform into Super Saiyan 4, which would be pretty awesome. Crossover or Power Beyond Super Saiyan for the 200% HP 170 stats, and then extra 50% for time travelers or fused fighters. So like, this is one of the things that we kind of would always have wanted to see for the Heroes characters, them having leads that can make really good like non-Heroes teams, because obviously just the combination of like Power Beyond Super Saiyan and fused fighters obviously means that you could get some pretty good combos and like team builds out of this guy's leader skill. And then of course having crossover as well as his base 170 with time travelers being the extra means that he's going to be getting all of the Heroes characters on the team as well, which is obviously what we want. So this guy, 2 key, attack defense 150, gets a guaranteed additional super, chance to crit and evade enemy attacks 33%. For 3 turns from the start of the first turn he appears, he gets guard. When there's another 3 or more crossover allies on the team, or when there is another time traveler's ally in the same turn. So again, this gives him that little bit of flexibility for other teams. He gets an extra attack and defense 133% and a high chance to get an additional super. So that gives him the potential for like 4 supers in a turn. And then when receiving a normal attack, he has damage reduction of 33% and counters with tremendous power. So he is a counter unit, which is very cool. And then, yeah, he only has guard for 3 turns, but that is because starting from the 4th turn, he can transform into Super Saiyan 4 Vegito. So once he transforms, key 3 attack and defense 250, guaranteed additional super, has guard, chance to crit and chance to dodge 44%. And then he's still got the 3 crossover allies on the team or time traveler on the rotation. That gives him 2 key and 144 attack and defense, another additional super. When attacking with 12 or more key, 144%. When receiving a normal attack, 33% damage reduction and counters with tremendous power. And then when receiving an unarmed super attack, high chance of nullifying it and countering with tremendous power. So that's definitely a good combo. Like, obviously we see units that can counter normals normally are pretty vulnerable to super attacks. So a character that actually has like the normal attack counters and then also having a way to counter some super attacks. Obviously it is only the specific, like the unarmed super attacks, but yeah, that is pretty cool. He then also has an active skill, massively raise attack temporarily, ultimate damage, raise allies attack when defense by 50% for 4 turns, self-excluded, from turn 5 from the start of the battle. So even if he was on turn 1, he can transform and then use that essentially straight away. So that's pretty good. He greatly raises attack and defense for 4 turns and does immense damage for his super. I didn't look at the... Yeah, he infinitely stacks attack as the Super Saiyan 3 Vegito. So that gives you a reason in longer events you could purposely not transform him straight away. Although obviously you risk because he runs out of guard after 3 turns. But against normal attacks in a lot of situations he would still be perfectly fine. So yeah, that seems pretty good to me. Be a pretty nice headliner. Works nicely with other team setups as well. So yeah, that definitely seems like a nice little headliner for a custom hero celebration. Then we have the Super Saiyan 4 Xeno Vegeta, because obviously we never got the normal Super Saiyan 4 like Xeno Vegeta and Goku. We got them as Super Saiyans, we got them as Super Saiyan 3s, and then we got them as the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4s, but we never got the normal ones. So this guy on turn 1 guaranteed dodges all attacks, which is pretty awesome. Then attack and defense 240, high chance to dodge, super class allies 1 key, attack and defense 22%, and then an additional 22% for characters who are crossover or giant 8 power. So this is what we want to see for, like, when it comes to like the Super Saiyan 4 type characters, we always want to see a lot of the like giant 8 power support, because it's something that is going to be really good for like putting them onto other teams, right? Because giant 8 power is a category that I think people are mostly big fans of, and with all the things like the Daima Goku and other potential like future buffs, it's obviously something that people want to see getting decent extra units, whether they be supports or main rotations or whatever, right? So 44% support. When there's a character whose name includes Xeno attacking in the same turn, attack and defense 150, additional super, and a 17% chance to dodge. So that puts him at like 67% dodge. For every 5 attacks evaded in battle, he gets 44% attack and defense up to 200%. As the first attacker in the turn, he gets an extra 17% chance to dodge and gives all allies an extra 44%. So slot 1, for the super class giant 8 power or crossover allies, he's giving them 88% attack and defense. And then he has what, like a 84% chance to dodge. As the third attacker in the turn, he gets extra attack and defense and then gives all allies attack and defense 15% and chance to dodge 10% for 2 turns. So that works out really nicely. You can put him in slot 1 to get a bunch of extra support. And obviously on turn 1, he like guaranteed dodges. And then on the next, like on the other turns, if you don't want to put him in slot 1, you can put him in slot 3, and then he has that little bit of like multi-turn support as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, very much like that for a Super Saiyan 4 Xeno. It's funny that we got Xeno Vegeta and not Goku. I know Prof is notoriously not a Goku fan and doesn't like a lot of Goku inclusion in Heroes. Because I feel like if Heroes were to do this, where we got like a Vegito and then just a solo like Super Saiyan 4 as the banner support unit, it would probably end up being a Goku. So it's kind of funny that Prof has made it a Vegeta. And then we have the Demon God Gravy. Greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn, supreme damage to the enemy, extreme class allies attack and defense 10% for 1 turn, which is pretty good. Don't look at Vegeta's attack, super attack, greatly raise attack and defense for 4 turns. So yeah, obviously that's very good, because even if he's a floating support, he carries that over to the next turn. Attack and defense 240, damage reduction 40%, extreme class allies 1 key, attack and defense 33, plus an additional attack and defense 33 for characters who belong to crossover or demonic power. So obviously for an extreme class demonic power team, be very good support. Before attacking, guards all attacks, damage reduction 5% for every crossover or demonic power ally on the team. So full crossover or demonic power, that means in slot 1 he has a, what, 75% damage reduction and guard, which is pretty good. When all allies attacking in the same turn are extreme, he gets 66% defense when receiving an attack, launches an additional super, and then for each attack received, he builds up attack and defense up to 200% and dodge chance up to 50%. So basically, this just makes him an insanely good slot 1 tank for a demonic power team. Because not only does he have that 75% damage reduction, he also gets 66% defense when getting hit. He has guard before receiving the attacks. He also gets extra defense from receiving attacks. So yeah, he would be a super, super strong slot 1 tank for an extreme demonic power team, and he's buffing the extreme class allies for the duration of that turn with his super attack effect. And obviously if he then got an additional super, that stacks, so he'd be giving extra support. He's got no additional chance in his passive, but obviously that'd be something that you would take care of with the hidden potential. But yeah, that looks definitely very, very good. Very strong slot 1 character for a demonic power team. So yeah, definitely like that. So if we go back to the main celebration, we also have a part 2 LR. So this would be releasing like the whole celebration in theory starting on the 19th. Then we have a part 2 LR, legendary summon crossover Xenoverse for a masked Saiyan LR. So obviously, you know that this is something that I would be very, very interested in. Love to have an LR masked Saiyan. So let's see what we've cooked up here for this guy. So time travelers or crossover, 4 key and 200%. That makes sense. Obviously it's a bit more limited than if he had things like Goku family and stuff like that, but those kind of leader skills don't really make sense for Mars Saiyan, really. So yeah, I think this is absolutely fine as his leader skill for a yellow coin LR. His super attack, the 12 key, raise attack and defense for 3 turns, colossal damage to the enemy and lowers attack. And then his 18 key super, greatly raise attack and defense and does mega colossal damage to the enemy. So pretty straightforward super attack effects, nothing like insanely crazy, but just very solid abilities. And then his passive and skill, he has an entrance animation when there's another crossover or extreme class time traveler ally on the team. So obviously very, very easy to do, especially with his own team. That gives him a one-time key 3 and attack and defense 100% for 3 turns. And then a permanent key 3 and damage reduction 50% for 1 turn. So I say permanent because it just comes into effect, but it's only for 1 turn. So on the first turn, he gets an extra 6 key. He's got 50% damage reduction, 100% attack and defense. That's all from his entrance animation. So obviously very good, worthwhile abilities from his intro animation. Then his basic effects, 5 key attack and defense to 60%, damage reduction 30%, randomly changes key spheres of a certain type other than int to int, and then gets an additional 2 key per key sphere obtained. So turn 1 with that extra buff from his intro, he's going to have 80% damage reduction. It's obviously very, very good. Per extreme class crossover ally on the team, extreme class or crossover, I should say, depending on which has more members. So obviously on a full extreme team, even without other crossover allies, that would still give him this buff. Attack and defense 50% up to 200, chance to guard 20% up to 100, all allies attack and defense 10% up to 50. So there's quite an interesting, we've seen chance to guard passives before, and they're obviously usually very annoying, but This is like per ally on the team, depending which has more members, and it does include himself. So he needs 4 other extreme allies or 4 other crossover allies on the team, and then he just has guard, which obviously for a crossover team, you're of course getting that. And then if you're running him with extreme allies, that's also very easy to get. So at the first glance, you see like chance to guard, and it's very easy to think like, oh, okay, chance to guard. But obviously it's very, very easy within that setup to actually just have that chance to guard be 100%. So for every key sphere obtained, he gets attack and defense 25%. So he has a nuking aspect to him as well. And then when key is 24 or more, launches an additional super attack and gets an extra 20% damage reduction. So that means on turn 1, if you get 24 key with him, he has 100% damage reduction as long as he had his intro, which is kind of crazy, but also obviously very good. He also has an active skill, Determination of the Marseillan. Key 24, damage reduction 50%, and directs enemies' attacks towards the character for 1 turn. Can be activated from the 5th turn from the start of battle. So, annoyingly though, like Marseillan, his links in general for the TUR one aren't very good. And obviously he has to lose a link to get legendary power. But keeping like over 9,000 and Berserker is definitely a definitely an interesting choice. Let me check. What were his actual links before? Where's the TUR Marseillan? What are his links? Which one did we replace with legendary power? Brutal beat. No, he's got that. Saiyan Warrior Race and Lineage. Yeah, Brutal Beatdown, Berserker, over 9,000. Oh, Prepared for Battle. Interesting. I mean, I guess if he's designed to be run with crossover characters and extreme characters, there's not a lot of extreme characters outside of the couple of Saiyans that have Prepared for Battle, and he gets a lot of key from his passive. He's also giving support, so I suppose losing a key link is not the worst thing in the world, but considering how limited and how bad like over 9,000 is as a link, I think it probably would just be better for him to lose over 9,000 for Prepared for Battle, but it is what it is. But yeah, so his active skill is a target ability, which gives him 50% damage reduction, because obviously you can only use it from turn 5, so he won't have that intro turn damage reduction, but he's still going to have, especially with 24 key, he's got 50% damage reduction anyway. So on the turn where you use the active skill, he actually has 100% damage reduction again, whilst also being the target of all the attacks. So that's really, really good, really, really strong. It means you can essentially use him on any of the extreme setups that he would go on, because with the team of 4 extreme allies, he gets his full passive, and then he can just be an absolute monster defensive unit. Like turn 1 and active skill turn, like he is literally invincible. So that's obviously very, very good. I mean, categories are a bit of an issue with Marseillan, I guess, but if we're talking about extreme teams, you've got Corroded Body of Mind, Mission Execution, Time Travelers, like very easy to make extreme teams for them. Obviously, like Corroded Body of Mind, this guy would be insanely good on the baby team. But yeah, very, very good Part 2 LR Marseillan. So then, of course, we'd have the Dokkan event to get the medals for the Super Saiyan 3 Vegito. Then, of course, missions to get extra medals. We're basically getting this all the time now with every release. So, of course, this celebration would have this as well. Then we have the crossover special barbershop. So this is the thing that we always get, where you can buy a pack of stones that comes with the specific Silver Heroes Dragon Stone, very much the same way that you would get like the purple stones and stuff. So you can use that to pick out a hero's character of your choice. Then we've got a new free-to-play story event, the Supreme Kai of Time saga. We've got the adult Cronoa there in the art. I know Cronoa is the actual Supreme Kai of Time, isn't it? It's Eos. And then, yeah, the free-to-play character for this celebration would be the Future Warrior in Black Super Saiyan Dark Dragon Ball Boost, right? Because remember how they named the Bardock from last year just the Warrior in Black? This is the Future Warrior in Black, so it's the Future Gohan version of the Warrior in Black. So, obviously, he wouldn't be getting an easy A straight away, so he's got like a 50% lead, which would be for crossover. He raises attack and defense for 1 turn. Base effects, attack and defense 200%. Medium chance to dodge, medium chance to crit. When key is 12 or more, he gets extra 158% when attacking attack, 158 defense when receiving an attack, which is good. When there's another ally whose name includes Warrior in Black on the team, or when there are 5 or more extreme class allies on the team, he gets a chance to dodge 28% and crit. extreme class allies 58% attack and defense. So that puts his dodge up to like 58. Yeah, dodge and crit up to 58%. I see what you did there with the Gohan with all the 58s. You love to see it. For every attack evaded within the turn, chance to evade and chance to crit up 10%, up to 30. So he could go up to 88% chance to dodge once he's dodged 3 attacks. I quite like this as well because it's pretty solid. Obviously he's a free-to-play unit, so he's not going to have crazy stats, but it also leaves that room for his eventual EZA to just improve on a lot of these things, right? Like increasing the medium chances to high chances and stuff like that. So this is a pretty solid. It's funny as well, like when there's another warrior in black. So we've got the Bardock from the previous year, and obviously we do also have the free-to-play, is it Lags, who would be getting an EZA as part of this celebration, the warrior in black, the like Yamcha's girlfriend. She also has warrior in black in the name, I believe. So yeah, this would be able to be activated by them on a crossover team, even with like a mix of superclass, or just 5 or more extreme class, another 5 or more. So it's like the whole team has to be extreme for him to get that. So this celebration obviously got a lot of interesting buffs for the extreme crossover team. So that's pretty cool. Then we have a new challenge event, Cell Max type challenge event, Usurper to the Dark Throne Demigra. So this is the crazy monster form Demigra final boss from like Xenoverse 1 that obviously the Int Demigra unit can transform into. Cell Max type challenge event is definitely an interesting way to describe it, because of course Cell Max, when that event first released, was absolutely crazy in terms of difficulty, and people trying to figure out the best ways to actually beat that event. And it was a fun time in the game, because like starting the event for the first time on the day it came out, it was kind of insane. It took me like 3 hours to beat it for the first time on a stream. And then obviously people started to figure out like the little ways to get around certain things. So many random older int units became like a good option for using in that event, which is kind of funny. So another event like that with like an extreme difficulty, but with these kind of interesting ways you can sort of get around the most difficult like aspects of it, I think would be very, very cool. Then we have a superhero, so join the time patrol, clear certain stages to complete support memories. I think we had this, I think this was included in the last one that Prof made as well, for a bunch of heroes support memories. Yeah, that gives a bunch of buffs to like the different heroes, like categories and stuff like that. I think we looked at that last time. Then a limited time event. This would be one of those once every day, like get skill orbs for the crossover category. And then we have the big one. This is the thing that, out of all of this stuff, as fun as it is to talk about a what if crossover celebration, we know, like I say, for the most part, it's very, very unlikely that we are going to get any of this stuff. However, the EZAs, these EZAs are what we know we definitely are getting. So we'll see what Prof's take on these are here. Will they be as good as these when they actually come out? Because I imagine that they'll be pretty good here. But let's go ahead and take a look. So we'll start off with Hearts. So obviously he's the 200% lead for Dragon Ball Heroes or Time Travelers, but they give the extra key, and like with the EZA, it's the extra 1 key for the 30%. Although it does also say 4 key here, which I think like normally these units when they EZA, they don't get that as well. But that would actually be kind of useful for the Heroes team, especially with the mixing and matching different crossover characters who don't necessarily link the best. But so he's made it so that in base he infinitely stacks attack and defense, because I believe that was only 1 turn before. Immense damage, medium chance to stun, attack and defense 200%, extreme class allies 1 key, attack and defense 40%. When attacking with 12 or more key, another 100% attack and defense. Then for 5 turns from the entry turn, guaranteed additional super, 30% damage reduction and guard, 50% defense within the turn when guard is activated. And then when all allies in the same turn are extreme, so getting rid of like the crossover, so it's just extreme, all allies 2 key and attack and defense 30%, medium chance to stun all enemies. So the stun all enemies passives usually do have a pretty low chance, and to be honest it doesn't really matter too much because there's not a lot of events where that is super relevant anymore anyway. And then once he transforms into the ultimate Hearts, then he greatly raises attack and defense for 3 turns, immense damage, great chance to stun. For 3 turns from the entry turn, he guards and gets an additional super. Then he has key 3, attack and defense 250, 30% damage reduction, Attacking with 12 or more key, 100% attack and defense. When all enemies are extreme, he gets attack and defense 150. When all... Did I say when all enemies? When all allies in the turn are extreme, attack and defense 150 disables enemy's guard. When all allies on the team are extreme, he just has guard and an additional super. So that's pretty good. When there's a Realm of Gods enemy, attacks effective against all types. When there's a crossover enemy, guaranteed additional super. And then when there's a Pure Saiyans enemy, all allies attack and defense 50%. So a couple of nice little additions here for the various different events, because he always had the Realm of Gods enemy, which wasn't really super relevant in a lot of events, but Pure Saiyan's enemy definitely is one that would be good, giving a lot of support. And then crossover, obviously this celebration would feature a bunch of these new crossover events. So yeah, this would definitely be very good on a full extreme team. Him just having guard, additional super, damage reduction, like he would be very, very strong. So then we have Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So infinitely stacks defense, massively raise attack for 1 turn, does immense damage to the enemy. Key 3 attack and defense 250 and 29% damage reduction. When attacking with 12 or more key, attack and defense 100%. When all allies in the same turn are super class, attack 150, guards all attacks and damage reduction 30%. So just get rid of this like full power or heroes, like it's just literally all are super class. So that gives him 59% damage reduction and guard. When there's an ally whose name includes Vegeta on the team, he gets an extra 159% defense when receiving an attack. So that's the kind of thing that will make it so that he could be viable for slot 1. Guard and 59% damage reduction, and then when he gets hit, he gets an extra 159% defense. Gives superclass allies key 1 and 70% defense, which also includes himself. And then his build-up thing, rather than getting hit, is it 9 times or is it 7 times for the Xeno Goku? It's now only receiving 4 attacks. He gets attack and defense 60% as a permanent increase and guaranteed crits. So I think this would be pretty good. I'm not sure in terms of like events that hit crazy hard like on turn 1. I'm not sure if that's enough for him to be a crazy slot 1 unit, but he does stack attack. So obviously events that are a little bit longer or a little bit more forgiving in the first and second like phase, he could easily build up a decent amount here. And then with support, getting the 159% extra when he gets hit, he should be a pretty viable slot 1 with that guard and damage reduction. So that's pretty good. Then we have the Xeno Vegeta. So he infinitely stacks attack and massively raises defense for 1 turn. Key 3 attack and defense 250. When attacking, another 100%. When all allies are superclass in the turn, he gets defense 150, 30% chance to dodge, and launches 2 additional super attacks. When there's an ally whose name includes Goku on the team, attack and defense 100% when attacking, and superclass allies 1 key and 70% attack. And then after performing 4 super attacks in battle, attack and defense 60%, attacks guaranteed to hit, and disables the attacked enemy's guard. I mean, with doing 2 additional supers, basically, like if you get the hidden potential, you could do this in 1 turn. Otherwise, you're basically just guaranteed to get it in 2 appearances. So that's pretty good. Like these 2 together as a combo on like a giant 8-power team would be absolutely ridiculous. And then speaking of which, we have the Int Gohan. This is the unit that I probably have the most high hopes for out of all of these EZAs. So this guy infinitely stacks defense, raise attack for 4 turns, does immense damage to the enemy, massively lowers defense. He has key 1, attack and defense 200%, guards all attacks for 5 turns. When there's 2 or more giant 8-power allies on the team, he gets attack and defense 144% and damage reduction 50%. When attacking with 12 or more key, he gets attack and defense 144, great chance of stunning the attacked enemy, and damage reduction 15%. When receiving an attack, he gets 100% extra defense. And then when there's another giant 8-power or crossover ally attacking in the same turn, 144% attack and defense and a scouter. So that's very interesting. Now, guard for only 5 turns is kind of interesting, but he is infinitely stacking defense. He does have 50% damage reduction. The big thing with this guy is that I think a lot of the teams that he's going to be on, or a lot of the teams that you want to put him on, want a really good slot 1 unit. So only having guard for 5 turns, like it would be nice if that was just a permanent guard. Once we get to like turn 6 or 7, I'm not sure how high his defense would have stacked, but he's going to have the 50% damage reduction. getting the extra 100% defense when he receives an attack obviously is big, because it's like whatever you see in the menu as his defense, obviously that just doubles when he gets hit. And then he has damage reduction as well. And he has a scouter, so like against the toughest bosses, if it's a situation where he would be getting supered in slot 1 and you know that in that scenario he would actually die, at least you can see the super, you can put him somewhere else. He gets extra damage reduction after he attacks as well, so that puts him to 65. So if he's in slot 1 but the super is after he attacks, then he's obviously in a much better position. But he seems very, very good. Would he be the ultimate slot 1 tank that I want him to be? I'm not sure, but definitely seems solid. And then going from him to Bardock, who's the one that I probably had the lowest expectations for. Key 1, attack and defense 200%, high chance to dodge. And there's 2 or more crossover allies, another 144% attack and defense, and an additional super. When HP is 50% or more, another 144 to stats, attacks effective against all types and a guaranteed crit. But if HP is 49% or less, he gets 244% to stats, gives all allies attack and defense 44%, gets an additional super and disables the enemy guard. And then there's another giant 8 power or crossover ally in the same turn. He gets attack and defense 15% per key sphere obtained and chance to evade attacks 20%. So as long as there's a giant 8 power or crossover ally in the same turn, he has a 70% chance to dodge and is a nuker, which if you're above the 50% HP, he's effective against all types and getting a guaranteed crit. And then if you're below the HP, he's actually even stronger, he's providing support and getting a guaranteed additional super. So this guy, like with support on the team, on a turn where you're at 49% or less HP, could actually be doing a pretty crazy amount of damage, which would be pretty nice. This would actually be a very good EZA for him, I think. So I definitely like that. Then we have Robel. This one has potential because of her like dodge, healing with rainbow orbs, scouter. So let's see. She greatly raises attack and defense for 3 turns, immense damage to the enemy, and seals super attacks. Should I check Bardock's? Yeah, Bardock's is infinitely stacking attack, which is again could be pretty good for those big damage turns. She greatly raises attack and defense for 3 turns, immense damage and seals, attack and defense 160, changes a random key sphere type to rainbow, and has a 70% chance to dodge. When attacking, attack and defense 160. When the target enemy is attacked down or stunned, attack and defense 250 and launches an additional super. Obviously there are fewer events now where you can stun, but there's still a few with like attack lowering is a viable option. Even against like Rose and Zamasu, Rose can be attack lowered. When there's another Dragon Ball Heroes or Demonic Power ally in the same turn, foresees enemy super attacks. So yeah, get rid of that horrendous like chance to foresee enemy supers. Defense 25%, recovers 10% HP, and all allies key 1, attack and defense 10% per rainbow key sphere obtained. So that's pretty good, because like the average for rainbow orbs, even with an orb changer, is usually 3. So it's going to be 75% extra defense, 30% HP recovered, all allies 3 key, attack and defense 30% on like an average turn. It's pretty good. And then when there's an ally whose name includes Demigra on the team, evades enemy attacks. That's incredibly OP, like super busted. I guess, which Demigra, do we have any units? It makes sense like lore-wise, but like, I guess the Demigra would be like the tech one from last year's Heroes units, who I guess would be potentially still a viable slot 1 on the extreme crossover build that we'd be getting out of this celebration. But yeah, that get me when you have the ally whose name includes Demigra, she just automatically dodges everything, which would obviously, funnily enough, would make her one of the best units in the game, but only in that very niche situation, because there are very few Demigras that you can actually use. So that is kind of funny. Super OP, even though it is very, very limited, right? Because there's no new Demigra with this celebration. So that is kind of funny. And then we have the Corrupted Supreme Kai of Time. She's all about status effect stuff. So massively raises defense for 1 turn, immense damage and massively lowers attack and defense. 2 key, attack and defense 180%, medium chance to stun all enemies. Extreme class allies, key 1, attack and defense 50%, plus an additional attack and defense 20% for characters who belong to crossover or corroded body and mind. So I mean, that's pretty good for like a corroded body and mind team. 1 key and 70% attack and defense. Then when attacking with 12 or more key, attack and defense 100% and seals the enemy's super for 2 turns. And then we've got attack down, defense down, sealed or stunned, give her a bunch of different effects. Attack down is attack 200%, defense 100%. defense down, which is probably the most common one that you can still do. Attack 100% and defense 200%. So the two of them together is like 300%, pretty good. If the enemy is sealed, another 150% attack and defense and a guaranteed additional super. And if the enemy is stunned, 150% and a guaranteed crit. So I mean, she'd be crazy good for like Super Battle Road, Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, like any of these shorter events where status effects are actually really useful. And she's providing a lot of support. And when there's a crossover ally in the same turn, high chance to dodge and high chance to stun all enemies. So she's still very restricted to specific kinds of events, but could still be pretty good in those events. So yeah, overall very solid. If the Easy A's are on that kind of level when they do come out this year, I'd be pretty happy. So we've got an Extreme Z area for the female warrior in black. She is obviously still like built around either crossover allies giving her additional buffs. So she's got 200% attack and defense, all allies 2 key, 40% stats. When attacking with 12 or more key, 100% attack and defense, and crossover allies 20% extra support. When the character is the only crossover ally character on the team, guaranteed crit and 150% to stats. Another crossover ally on the team gives her a guaranteed additional super, additional attack which has a great chance to become a super, and attack and defense 40% for every attack performed. When there's an Earthbred Fighters ally in the same turn, creates int orbs and then gets attack and defense 86% for the character and allies whose name include Yamcha. And then when there's an ally whose name includes Warrior in black, high chance to dodge, and attack and defense 100% for her and the allies whose name includes Warrior in black, which obviously we saw from this celebration, the new free-to-play Future Gohan, and there'd still be the old Warrior in black as well. So pretty decent, good upgrade for a free-to-play unit. And then you can see here as well, something that would be very, very awesome, a Heroes Super Easy A for Super Saiyan 4 Xeno Vegito. So this would actually be crazy. So obviously his leader skill and super attack wouldn't change. His super attack is still greatly raised defense and do immense damage. But then his abilities are attack and defense 180%. Great chance to guard. Ooh, chance to guard, prof, really? It is 70%, but crossover allies 1 key, attack and defense 50%. Giant Ape Power allies 2 key, attack and defense 30%. So obviously the crossover Giant Ape allies 3 key, 80% is pretty good. When performing a super, attack and defense 150, attacking with 12 or more key, attack and defense 100% and chance to crit 50%. Per crossover ally or Giant Ape Power ally on the team, depending which has the most. Damage reduction 10%, defense 20% when being attacked. So I mean, on a full Giant Ape Power team, which remember, including himself and the friend, is like 7 characters, that means he has 70% damage reduction and gets 140% defense when receiving an attack. So I guess that kind of makes up for the turns where he wouldn't have guard, I suppose. And then if you have 2 crossover or Giant Ape Power allies in the same turn, okay, then he just has guard and gets an additional super, and then he has a great chance to counter supers, which is an increase because his current one is the high chance. So this guy would actually be nuts. Like on a Giant 8 power team, he's got guard, gets a guaranteed additional super, has 70% damage reduction, gets 140% defense when being attacked. I think the wording of this means that like, even if the first attack of the turn was a super and he counters it, or is an attack and he dodges, then he just gets this. So then he just has 140% extra defense. Then when he attacks, he gets 100% extra attack and defense. So he would be incredibly good, would be incredibly tanky. And then, yeah, he's providing a ton of support as well. So if this did actually happen and we got this Super Easy A for Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, he would be, well, I mean, he would be the best Super Easy A. He would probably be arguably, like if we're including all Easy A's and Super Easy A's, like the best TUR in the game, probably, with this Super Easy A, which of course is what we want to see from a custom Heroes celebration. So then we've got obviously the return of the usual stuff, the Easy A banner, burst mode for the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4s, which I believe we did get, didn't we? Oh no, wait, it's just the event available. And it does say burst mode as well. The event is available because obviously the characters are Easy A-ing and are available on an Easy A banner. So their banner is available for the medals to awaken them and hearts, which I guess makes sense. I think that might just be there from where Prof's copied over the event info. I don't think it actually means burst mode because we have had that one already. And then, yeah, new stages for the red zone and a new blue zone. And then everything else is the kind of usual returning category sort of stuff. that we have seen in the past. So I did bring these up here. You can see here we got a couple of extra stages for the Red Zone, Modified Janemba, Limit Breaker Broly, Dark King Fu. I think those are... It did only go up to stage 6, didn't it? I might just be completely forgetting the last time the Heroes Red Zone got updated, but the Blue Zone one would be new, versus Vegeta, Supreme Kai of Time, God Trunks, and then Xeno Vegito. Certainly would be interesting. Would we get a new hardest fight out of the game out of these? Maybe, who knows. But there you go. So it still ended up being quite a long video, but that is Prof's custom crossover celebration. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Obviously, as I say, we know that we're not going to be getting most of this stuff. The Heroes EZAs are really the only things we know about, the 7 summonable units and the female warrior in black. But let me know what you think of the celebration in total. Would this be a celebration that would get you excited? Would you want to summon for a Super Saiyan 3 to Super Saiyan 4 transforming Vegito? I know I would. But yeah, big shout out to Prof. But let me know what you guys think of the custom celebration down below in the comment section. Do you think we will see any more crossover stuff outside of those Heroes EZAs? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But let me know all of your thoughts on this stuff down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.